Yeah, so this next segment is all about Brice Najar's Let's Make History book. It's been out a couple of years. We're going to hear from Brice through a pre-recorded message that he's done especially for tonight's event. And we're also going to announce a little giveaway, another book giveaway. So that's exciting. And we're going to do a bit of a book review. I read it. I actually met Brice at Kingvention, which is what we were just talking about, repairs, back in September. So that was lovely. And I bought the book then and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you.
Okay. Should we start the video yet, or should we talk about, I want to show my shirt. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everyone. You can't really see it because the design is lower, but I just want you all to know that I'm wearing this shirt. There you go. Okay.
I don't have a history shirt, sorry. I'm wearing the Immortals t-shirt.
Someone on the chat said they had that shirt, Tammy.
Oh yeah, Nicole, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty. It's got little butterflies and little hearts and stuff.
Aww.
Little trees. It's cute.
And you too. Me and Jeanette are twins today.
Oh, I'm wearing my glove earrings and necklace I've had since I was like 12.
Oh.
It's one of those days.
All right. So I'm gonna go ahead
Do the video?
and yeah, I'm gonna start Bryce's video. This is a message from Brice, everyone.
Najar?
Yeah. Okay. Oh.
Hi, Michael Jackson Book Club. I am Brice Najar. I am French and I wrote 3 books about the King of Pop and his music. I'm very happy to celebrate History 25 with you. So, thank you so much for including Let's Make History, my previous book, in this celebration. For your information, History is my favorite album, and I wanted to pay tribute to it. I got the concept after a meeting with Chris Jones a few years ago. I gave him a copy of my first book, and he said to me, as a joke, "Who was the producer? The guys who write books were not there with us in the studio." And I told myself, it's not so wrong. Maybe I could make interviews with people who actually worked with Michael Jackson. So, as I said, the History album is my favorite. And I wanted to talk to musicians or technicians who worked on History Begins and History Continues too. It was a way to evoke a lot of periods and other records too. So, about Let's Make History, there are 25 interviews in the book, and every interview is a story with some anecdotes. It's very, very difficult to choose one of them. But for instance, I can talk about Steve Porcaro, the guy who wrote Human Nature, as you know. And Steve Porcaro described very well his work for history. It was very interesting to know he got his own audio engineer, just for himself. That's very crazy, you know. And when he programmed in a synthesizer all the sounds and instruments from an orchestra for the song Little Susie. And Steve Porcaro told me the story of the demo, Chicago 1945 in the 80s. It was very fascinating to hear the story of a song you never heard in your life. So, about my favorite track in the album. So, it's a difficult question because I can listen the whole album. I love all the songs and my mind can change every day. It depends if I am in a good mood or not. For instance, I can listen to They Don't Care About Us and DS very, very loud. I like to listen to these songs in this ambience, you know. But if I have to make a choice and explain what song is my favorite, I would say Childhood, for the purity and beauty of Michael's voice and the support of the amazing orchestra performance. It's like Michael Jackson at a high level, at a mountain peak, with a lot of maturity as an artist. So that's interesting to talk about his childhood in this condition and atmosphere. So if you are interested in my work, you can discover my website, bricenajar.com, You will find some book reviews, interviews with MG collaborative partners, and review of album and concert I saw. My next book is nearly finished, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. I did some interviews again, but I will talk about my experience as a fan too. I hope you will like it because it will be released this year. The title is Book on the Dance Floor, and you can guess the subject, I think. So, thank you again, Michael Jackson Book Club, for your support and interest. Keep Michaeling, of course. Take care. Merci beaucoup. Au revoir. Merci.
Excellent. That was so great to hear.
This is the
Yes.
book.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love the cover.
Yeah, it's really well done, and it's a nice size as well. The font is beautiful. It's very in keeping with the design of the history album and all of that, all of the graphic design. It's got beautiful color photographs, and all of them, well, most of them are quite rare because they're from private collections, which I'll explain a bit in a minute. Hand photographs of handwritten notes.
Oh,
It's
great.
just really, really well done. It's a real substantial book.
So what kind of book is it?
Go on, Tammy.
Sorry, well, what kind of book is it? It's about.
Right. So basically, it's a collection of 25 interviews with musicians and technicians who worked on history. And it's not just disc 2, it's disc 1 as well. So Bryce has painstakingly researched and found and contacted these musicians and technicians that have worked with Michael for over, 30, 40, whatever years, right back to the off-the-wall tracks that are on History Disc 1, and had made really extensive, in-depth interviews with each person. It's a really riveting, unique collection because where else would you be able to find all of those first-hand accounts other than, in this great collection? And because he's coming as an outsider in terms of he wasn't there, he brings, the questions that he brings are fresh. We've got books where people have written about their experience at the time looking back, but this is a fan. And he's not just a Michael Jackson fan. He's a big music fan. When you go on his website, you can see he's quite an expert in a number of artists. I think Michael probably is his favorite, maybe by the look of his work. But really, he's able to bridge the gap, I think, between the fan, the everyday music lover like us, or Michael lover, with the serious professionals in the studio, because he has that outsider perspective, but he's a big, as they call him, studio geek, whatever, studio rat himself. He loves it, and he's learned all about it. So it brings us something that we probably couldn't access if he hadn't done it.
Right. So it sounds like there's a lot of information in this book, and I haven't read it yet, but I really want to read it. How would you describe the layout? Like, how does he put together all of this information?
Okay, so he puts it together in sort of 25 chapters. There's a contents page. I'm just going to little flash it. So there's History Continues. It's split up like the double album. So there's the History Continues section, and he's picked out artists that he feels represents the different aspects of history. One thing you really get from this book is, obviously I don't have any personal experience in how to make albums, and I haven't heard lots of different accounts. I'm a Michael fan, first, and but it seems like the way history was created in the studio was unique to Michael, in the sense that Michael obviously had a lot of leeway. He had a lot of creative freedom because he'd worked all his life to get it, rightly so. So he had access to as much resources as he could, and he could take a long time. He could have numerous studios open at the same time. His budget for history was really big. So there's that. But actually, that aside, the creative process, which is captured when you look at all the different interviews, is really, really interesting. It reminds me a bit, and I'm probably doing it a disservice, obviously, because I'm not a music expert at all, but it's like a tapestry. So there are, like, we all know the story that Earth Song was first, kind of conceived back in bad era. And then it was brought back to the studio at every project through Dangerous. Bits were added, brought back again for history to be completed. And, we've all heard that story that the final part of Earth Song, Michael, the what about bit, that was done on the last day of, the recording, and, it's kind of save his voice sort of thing. But the way that each of these tracks is weaved, and there's so much sharing and collaboration between different artists. Michael will come in with an idea, with something, a melody or something. He says, I need a guitarist. And then the technicians will be saying, oh, I know who to call. And they'll call somebody up. That collaboration, it just sounds fantastic to be there and feel all that. But also it conjures up ideas of Michael the maestro, that image of him in Ghosts, conducting the ghosts, but in the studio, conducting in his mind. He has the vision, but it's so expansive and almost chaotic at times. Individual musicians can't get a grip on what that vision is. And he's like the maestro, and he's got it all in his head, and he's meeting with different producers, different musicians and writers, and bringing that all together. And he's obviously got his core team, the Brads, Bruce, Matt, all of those people. Yeah, so it just sounds fantastic.
So
Wow.
What makes this book so rare and insightful and detailed? How detailed is it?
Oh, well, I picked out, have we got time for a little bit? Right, great. Because I've picked out just one example to give you guys a flavor. Rob Hoffman was a sound engineer, a guitar player, and a synthesizer programmer. And I liked his particular interview. These interviews, they're like 12, 15 questions. They're like 6 pages long each. They're amazing. But I like Rob's story. I thought it's quite interesting. He was, when Michael was in the 80s in the big peak, kind of the Thriller and Bad, he was a kind of punk. He was into punk. He was a teenager. He was into punk, and he was loving jazz. And he knew of Michael's, immense talent. But he wasn't like a Michael fan. He didn't buy the albums or anything. It was just like out there. And then he was at an NBA game, and he heard Jam. And Jam was the NBA theme for that year. So it was played at all the matches, all the games, sorry, I'm being British, all the games. And he was like, whoa, what is this? Now, this guy, this Rob Hoffman, I don't want to do him a disservice. He'd been a musician since he was a child, but he wasn't interested in performing. He didn't really know where he sat, but he loved music. He could play numerous instruments as a child. So he's grown up, he's sitting at an NBA game, and he's like, what is this? This album, this song, Jam. And he buys the Dangerous album because of that song, because of hearing it. And because he's a musician, he's reading all the credits, and he keeps saying Bruce Swedien, Bruce Swedien, Bruce Swedien, and all these tracks. He's like, who is this Bruce Swedien? So he does research on Bruce Swedien and finds out his illustrious musical career and all of the people he's worked with and all of that. And he gets completely inspired to go and try and work in production. He finds like what he wants to do. He's not a performer, he doesn't want to perform, he wants to work in production. So he takes some courses, he's in New York, he graduates, he does all that, and he goes to work in Hit Factory in New York.
Wow.
And his dream, his career service guy, when he was leaving uni, he was like, okay, what are you going to do? And he's like, I'm going to go to LA, I'm going to work with Bruce Swedien. And the guy's like, yeah, everybody wants to do that. What do you want to actually do?
Yeah.
And literally 6 months later, he's in Hit Factory working with Bruce Swedien. because obviously there was the 1994 earthquake in LA, and Michael wanted out.
Right.
He had to be in the studio, so he said, let's go to New York, and he took his whole inner core team to New York.
Mhm.
And that's how Rob Hoffman gets to meet Michael. So this is the detail you get. I don't know this story from anywhere else. This is the detail you get in this book. It's fantastic.
Wow.
Have we got time for a little bit? Can I read it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Great. So the detail in terms of, you know, learning more about Michael, the artist. This is a really nice bit. And it's about the first time he ever worked with him. And it was the recording of Much Too Soon. And he says, on that day, Michael came in and said he needed a guitar player. So we called Jeff. Michael sang him the melody, and Jeff picked chords that fit. Jeff is, of course, an incredible guitar player, but the amazing part of that day was that Michael could sing all of the individual notes of the chords. So Jeff would be harmonizing with his melody, but if the chord wasn't right, Michael would be like, oh no, the chord has to be this, not this, and then he'd sing it. He knew exactly and had the entire composition of the song in his head, which is really impressive and something that we saw all through the progress of the record history. He could easily sing all the parts in the song. He would say, the high strings would do this, the low strings would do this. He had all the arrangements in his head. Most people don't have that, even if they can sing the melody or the bass line, but he could sing every note within the entire score.
We hear that over and over, but to really hear it from one of the people who work closely with him is like a whole other thing. And I guess, I hope you guys are realizing that Brice Najar, like, he went out and interviewed all of these people. Like, and and I always say this, it's amazing that we can still talk to people who work directly with Michael, because within a generation or two, those people are going to be gone. They're going to be gone, and those stories are going to be gone with them. So it's amazing that we're able to capture these stories even as fans. You know, it's really important, you know, because where else would we have gotten that story?
It wouldn't be written down, it'd be lost in history. Yes. And that's why I just love this book. It's so good.
Wow. So would you recommend this book to fans who don't know a lot about the technical aspects of music engineering and music?
Well, Tammy, that was me. That is me. You know, I learned so much from this book. Like I said at the beginning of this review, it really bridges the gap in terms of understanding all the technical, you know, he lists synthesizers by their names and all the technical, you know, the numbers and the letters that come after them. I don't understand any of that, but the studio rats will love it because it's detailed enough so that they feel that they get a good idea about what was going on, and they can imagine it, and they can, you know, download a version of it, because you can download all these amazing synthesizers now, can't you? You can buy them as downloads, apparently. I don't really know. But you know, you could do that if you were into it, and you could relive those moments from a kind of musicality perspective. But for us mere mortals, it's really accessible. Have we got time for one more little that will illustrate that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so same interview, Rob Hoffman, he's talking about, well, Bryce asks him the question about how he got credits as a guitar player on History album, and which song was it? Because it was just general, you know, it's like, you know, guitar player. It didn't list the song. So he asked him about that story. So this is like a little example. Where is it? Okay. Yeah, so Rob says, well, the getting credits was just being in the right place at the right time. The bridge on They Don't Care About Us was a massive undertaking, and Michael had concepts, but he didn't really know how exactly it was going to fit in. So he had Brad Buxter with him in the studio building a bunch of tracks, but that wasn't quite right. Then he hired Jeff Bova, an amazing keyboard player and maybe one of the nicest people on the planet, who came in several times and was allowed free reign. Michael said, just do what you do. So he did a lot of the They Don't Care About Us very fast runs on the bridge. Then Jason Miles, another tremendous keyboarder, came in and worked on it. Then Brad and Michael attacked it again. They worked on it. Then Slash and Trevor Rabin both play guitar in that section. And there may even be more people, but that's the core of who played in it. Remember I said about that tapestry?
Yeah.
This is a really good example. So he carries on. So towards the end of the New York sessions, we listened back and Slash, Trevor Rabin, and everyone else, all the guitar players, played very slightly different notes than what the rest of the track had turned out to be. They were just slightly off. So Brad, Eddie, and Michael were like, well, we need someone else to play it. And Eddie said, Rob, the guy, you're playing this. Our other assistant, Tony Dino Black, had left his guitar in the lounge. So I went and I grabbed it, plugged it in, and thankfully Michael was not in the room because he would have been self-conscious. That's what he means. The Brad and Eddie coached me through the part to make sure that we had the right notes. So I played it, and hopefully it didn't take too long. For the bridge section, there were probably 300 tracks making up that one section.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it couldn't fit onto one tape or even several tapes. So Eddie and Michael were constantly editing different sections to see where it would be or what it would be. So I never knew if I was going to make the final cut of the song. Eddie came to me and said, well, we're going in. I'll let you know how it comes out. And after the entire afternoon editing and putting the tracks together, he came out and he said, you made it. You made the cut. And that was my first major record guitar credit after hopefully delivering something that was actually musical. So there we go.
It's a whole different world, music engineering and the artistry that goes, I can't even, wow.
Yeah, but that was accessible, right? You can still
understand it. Definitely.
Remind the members and the fans what the book's titled, and then he also has a book coming out in September, I believe, and what the title of that is.
Yeah, so this is Let's Make History, 25 interviews, in-depth interviews with the musicians and the technicians that worked with Michael in Hit Factory, New York, and then back in LA again when they went back.
Right. And then Bryce also has another book coming out in September called Book on the Dance Floor, which is obviously going to be about blood on the dance floor. And I wonder, do you guys usually fuse blood on the dance floor and history into one kind of era? I kind of do. I mean, I do. So it'll be a nice companion to this history book that he's just written. Okay. And so,
The giveaway?
yes, the giveaway. We have a giveaway for Bryce's book, everyone.
It's a signed copy that he's giving away, which is so generous. Thank you, Bryce. We love you in the book club.
Thank you, Bryce.
Amazing.
And what we have is a question and a bit of a competition. So anybody who's listening, if you personal message myself, Jeanette Simpson, via the book club with the answer to this question and your email address, you have to put that in too, you will be entered into a lottery. So all the people who get the right answer will be put in a lottery, and we will announce the winner of a signed copy of Let's Make History, Bryce Najar, probably by tomorrow. Okay, so the question is, can you name all of the individuals that are named as producers on the song This Time Around? I'll say it again. So name all of the individuals that are named as producers on the song This Time Around. And so if you get that, to me, personal message me with your email address, and anyone who has the correct answer will get put into the lottery to see who wins. Thank you, Bryce.
Thank you, Bryce.
I'm putting this into the chat.
So exciting. Really good book, guys. And check out his website too. His website's really beautiful, really good graphic design, lots of interesting interviews with various people linked to Michael and that.
That's BryceNajar.com, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
BriceNajar.
Perfect. Oh, perfect. Well, I hope that's exciting. That was our giveaway for today, everyone. Fantastic. Fantastic.